The message arrived at exactly 3:17 Galactic Standard Time. It contained only 7 words. Humans. Survive Karen for 30 days. Commander Elias Vance stared at the transmission on the bridge of the human exploration vessel Odyssey. Nobody spoke. Around him, 12 officers sat frozen at their stations, staring at the same message. Karen. The name alone was enough to silence an entire room. It was not a planet. At least not anymore. Karen had once been a beautiful world covered in oceans, forests, and vast continents. Then the planet had been discovered by the Galactic Union nearly 4 centuries earlier. The survey team lasted 11 minutes. The rescue team lasted 8. The military expeditions sent afterward never returned. Since then, Karen had been classified as a Level 0 death world. No settlements. No mining operations. No scientific missions. No exceptions. Even the most aggressive alien species in the galaxy avoided its orbit. Elias slowly leaned toward the communication console. Play it again. The message repeated. Humans. Survive Karen for 30 days. Then another line appeared. If you succeed, humanity will receive full membership in the Galactic Union. The bridge erupted. You've got to be kidding me. They're testing us. That's not a test. That's execution. Who sent this? Elias raised one hand. Silence returned. The transmission carried the seal of the Galactic Council. But something was wrong. Humanity had spent 20 years requesting membership in the Galactic Union. Every time, the answer had been the same. Humans were too unpredictable. Too aggressive. Too primitive. Too dangerous. But now, suddenly, they were offering membership. All humanity had to do was survive one planet. For 30 days. Elias looked at the planetary projection. Karen appeared as a dark sphere surrounded by violent electrical storms. The planet's atmosphere was constantly moving. Lightning flashed across continents. Massive clouds rotated around mountain ranges. The oceans were black. And beneath those clouds, something moved. The ship's science officer, Dr. Mirachin, zoomed in. Commander. What? You need to see this. She enlarged a thermal scan. At first, there was nothing. Then the scanner detected movement. Hundreds of thousands of heat signatures. Then millions. The entire surface seemed alive. Elias felt a cold sensation run down his spine. What are those? Mira shook her head. I don't know. A second transmission arrived. This one contained a warning. Do not land after sunset. The bridge went silent. Elias looked at the clock. 3:24. Karen's local sunset? Mira checked. 6 hours. Elias stood. Prepare the landing team. His first officer stared at him. Commander, are you actually accepting this? Elias looked through the viewport at the distant planet. No. He paused. We're not accepting their challenge. Everyone looked confused. Elias smiled faintly. We're going to survive it. The Odyssey entered Karen's atmosphere. The ship immediately began shaking. Warning alarms screamed. Atmospheric pressure rising. Shield integrity dropping. Electrical interference. Something is hitting the hull. Elias grabbed the command rail. What? The tactical officer turned pale. We're being attacked. By what? I don't know. A massive shape suddenly slammed into the ship. The bridge lights went dark. For 3 seconds, there was complete silence. Then emergency power returned. Mira looked at her scanner. Commander! What now? She pointed toward the planet below. The clouds had opened. For the first time, humanity saw Karen's surface. There were forests, mountains, rivers, and enormous structures moving between them. Not buildings. Creatures. Thousands of meters long. Elias stared in disbelief. One of them opened its wings. The shadow covered an entire mountain range. Then another appeared. Then another. Mira whispered. Those aren't animals. Elias looked at her. What are they? She swallowed. They're hunting us. The Odyssey dropped lower. 6 hours remained until sunset. And humanity had just discovered why every alien civilization in the galaxy feared Karen. The planet wasn't trying to kill them. It had been waiting for something to arrive. And now, humans had arrived. The Odyssey hit the ground like a meteor. Metal screamed. The ship's landing struts shattered. Trees exploded beneath the hull as the vessel skidded across Karen's black soil for nearly 2 kilometers before finally coming to a stop. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then the emergency lights came on. Report. Commander Elias Vance's voice cut through the smoke. Main engines destroyed. Shields gone. Communications? Long-range communications are dead. Elias closed his eyes for half a second. They had been on Karen for less than 10 minutes. Already, their ship was crippled. Mira-chan pulled herself from the floor. Commander, we have another problem. Elias looked at her. Of course we do. She activated her scanner. The landing impact damaged the atmospheric sensors. But I managed to get one reading. What? Mira turned the screen toward him. A countdown appeared. 5 hours 41 minutes and 22 seconds. Elias frowned. What is that? Mira looked toward the dark windows. Sunset. Nobody spoke. They remembered the warning. Do not land after sunset. Elias looked at his crew. We have 5 hours. His first officer, Marcus Hale, stepped forward. 5 hours to repair the ship? No. Elias pointed toward the forest. 5 hours to build a fortress. The crew moved immediately. Humanity had trained for hostile environments. Not because the Galactic Union respected them. Because humans had learned long ago that the universe didn't care whether they were ready. Within minutes, the Odyssey's surviving crew began unloading equipment. Portable generators, thermal barriers, automated sentry guns, medical supplies, food containers, emergency shelters. They built a defensive perimeter around the damaged ship. But Karen remained silent. Too silent. There were no birds, no insects, no wind. Only the distant sound of something enormous moving beneath the forest floor. Mira suddenly froze. Everyone stop. The workers stopped. What is it? Elias asked. She raised her scanner. I detected movement. Where? She pointed toward the western forest. Under us. The ground trembled. One of the soldiers stepped backward. A crack opened beneath him. Elias shouted, Move! The soldier jumped away as a massive black tentacle erupted from the ground. It slammed into the defensive wall, crushing 3 automated turrets. Soldiers opened fire. Blue plasma bolts tore into the creature. The tentacle recoiled, then disappeared underground. Silence returned. Marcus stared at the destroyed turrets. That thing was underneath us? Mira nodded. And it wasn't attacking. Elias looked at her. What do you mean? It was testing our defenses. Before Elias could answer, every scanner on the base began screaming. Hundreds of signals appeared. Then thousands. Then millions. Myra's face turned pale. They're surrounding us. Elias looked toward the trees. Nothing moved. Then 2 yellow eyes appeared between the branches. Then 4. Then dozens. Then hundreds. The forest was watching them. Elias slowly raised his rifle. Hold your fire. Marcus looked at him. Commander! Don't shoot unless they attack. A low growl rolled across the forest. The sound was so deep that the ground vibrated. Then the creatures stepped forward. They were tall, thin, covered in black armor-like skin. Their heads had no visible eyes. Only narrow glowing lines across their faces. One walked into the open. It stood nearly 3 meters tall. Elias took 1 step forward. The creature stopped. For several seconds, human and alien stared at each other. Then the creature tilted its head. Almost like it was studying him. Mira whispered, It's intelligent. Elias nodded. Then something unexpected happened. The creature pointed toward the sky. Everyone looked up. The clouds were changing. The sunlight was disappearing. Sunset had arrived early. The countdown on Myra's scanner suddenly hit 0. The forest went completely dark. Every creature vanished. Elias turned toward his soldiers. Defensive positions. The first scream came from the northern perimeter. Then another. Then 20. The sentry guns activated. The forest erupted. Thousands of creatures charged from the darkness. Gunfire thundered through the trees. Plasma bolts illuminated the battlefield. Humans fought desperately. One creature climbed over the defensive wall. A soldier fired directly into its chest. It fell. Another replaced it. Then another. Left flank. Reloading. Medic. Keep firing. Elias grabbed a machine gun and joined the line. For the first time since arriving on Charon, the humans understood the truth. The planet wasn't testing their technology. It was testing their courage. And Charon had no intention of making the test easy. Then suddenly, every creature stopped. They all looked toward the same direction. The forest became silent. Elias lowered his weapon. What are they doing? Mira stared at her scanner. Commander, something bigger is coming. The ground began shaking. Trees collapsed in the distance. Something enormous was approaching. Something so large that the scanner couldn't calculate its size. Then a shape rose above the forest. A mountain of black flesh and armor. Its head emerged from the darkness. And when it opened its mouth, the entire planet seemed to scream. Mira whispered, "That's not a predator." Elias stared at the creature. "What is it?" She looked at the data. Her voice trembled. "It's the reason the aliens never come here." The creature's enormous eyes opened and locked directly onto the human base. Elias raised his weapon. "Everyone!" The monster roared. "Hold the line." The first night on Charon had just begun. The roar shook the mountains. For 3 seconds, every human on Charon stood frozen. Then the creature moved. It charged. Trees exploded beneath its enormous body as it rushed toward the human base. Fire! Hundreds of weapons opened at once. Plasma bolts tore through the darkness. Explosions erupted across the creature's armored hide. But it didn't slow down. Commander Elias Vance watched in disbelief. "Target its joints." The soldiers adjusted their aim. The creature's front leg took several direct hits. Black armor cracked. The monster stumbled. For one brief second, Elias thought they had found its weakness. Then the creature looked down at the damaged limb. It touched the wound. And something impossible happened. The armor began repairing itself. Mira stared at her scanner. "It's regenerating." "How fast?" "Too fast." The creature charged again. The defensive wall disappeared beneath its enormous foot. Soldiers scattered. Elias grabbed Marcus and pulled him away seconds before the ground collapsed. "Fall back to the ship." They retreated toward the Odyssey. The creature stopped at the edge of the destroyed perimeter. It didn't attack. Instead, it watched. Elias noticed something strange. "Wait." Marcus turned. "What?" "It's learning." Marcus looked confused. Elias pointed toward the battlefield. The creature wasn't randomly attacking anymore. It was watching the humans. Every time a weapon fired, its head turned. Every time a soldier moved, its eyes followed. It was studying their tactics. Mira suddenly understood. "It's analyzing us." Elias looked at her. "Can it understand what we're doing?" "I think it already does." The creature suddenly opened its mouth. But instead of roaring, it produced a sound identical to the firing sequence of the human plasma rifles. Myra's face went pale. "It copied us." The creature raised one massive limb. Energy gathered inside it. A bright blue glow appeared. Elias shouted, "Down!" A beam erupted. It struck the human defensive position. The blast threw soldiers through the air. The remaining equipment exploded. Elias hit the ground hard. His vision blurred. For several seconds, he couldn't hear anything. Then Marcus pulled him up. "Commander!" Elias looked around. Half the base was gone. "How many?" Marcus hesitated. 32 wounded. 7 dead. Elias clenched his jaw. He looked toward the monster. It was still watching them. Then it turned away and walked back into the forest. Nobody understood why. Until Mira looked at her scanner. "Commander!" "What?" "It isn't leaving." She pointed at the screen. It's sending something. A signal. A pattern. Repeated pulses. Mira began decoding it. The message appeared on the display. Learning. Elias stared. That's impossible. No. Mira shook her head. It's communicating. Another pulse arrived. The message changed. Human. Then another. Danger. Elias stepped closer. Danger to us? Mira's expression changed. No. She looked toward the sky. Danger to it. Suddenly, every sensor on the Odyssey activated. Something had entered the upper atmosphere. Elias looked up. The clouds flashed with hundreds of lights. Not lightning. Ships. Alien ships. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. A massive fleet appeared above Karen. Marcus stared upward. They came here? Mira shook her head. No. Elias understood. They followed us. The alien fleet surrounded the planet. A transmission entered the human communications system. This time, there was no distortion. A cold alien voice spoke. Human vessel. Elias answered. This is Commander Elias Vance. You have violated galactic law. Elias frowned. We were invited. Silence. Then the alien voice returned. You were deceived. Elias looked at Mira. What does that mean? The alien continued. Karen is not a test. The bridge became silent. It is a prison. Elias felt his blood run cold. A prison for what? The alien voice hesitated, then answered. For something that must never leave. The ground beneath the Odyssey suddenly shook. Mira looked at her sensors. Commander! What now? She turned the screen toward him. Millions of signals were moving beneath the planet. Not thousands. Not hundreds of thousands. Millions. Elias stared. The creatures weren't coming toward the human base. They were moving toward the center of the planet. Something had awakened. The alien transmission continued. You have 30 days. Elias looked toward the sky. Why? The alien answered with 4 words. Because that is how long we have. The transmission ended. Elias stood silently. Then the forest exploded. A massive column of black energy erupted from the ground. The shockwave threw trees into the air. The sky turned red. And somewhere beneath Karen's surface, something opened its eyes. Mira whispered. That wasn't here before. Elias looked at the burning horizon. What wasn't? She stared at the scanner. The thing that just woke up. Then every creature on the planet screamed at once. Not in anger. Not in hunger. In fear. For the first time since humanity landed on Karen. The monsters were afraid. And Elias finally realized the terrifying truth. Humans had not been sent to Karen to survive the creatures. They had been sent there because something worse was coming. The screaming continued for nearly 6 minutes. Millions of creatures across Karen cried out at once. Then everything stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Commander Elias Vance stood beside the damaged Odyssey, staring at the horizon. The black energy column had disappeared, but the sky remained red. Mira Chen studied the sensor readings. Something is moving underground. Elias looked at her. How big? She didn't answer immediately. Bigger than the planet's largest mountain. Marcus Hale stepped closer. That isn't possible. Mira slowly shook her head. That's what the sensors say. Elias looked toward the alien fleet hovering above Karen. They knew. Mira nodded. They knew exactly what was down there. A transmission suddenly entered the human network. The same alien voice returned. Human Commander. Elias answered. I'm listening. You must abandon the planet. Elias looked at the wreckage around him. Our engines are destroyed. Repair them. Why don't you land and help us? Silence. Then the alien replied. We cannot. Elias frowned. Why? Because the prison recognizes our ships. Mira looked at Elias. The prison? The alien continued. Karen was constructed around the entity beneath its surface. Elias stared at the planet. You're saying this entire world is artificial? No. The alien paused. Karen is the lock. Elias felt a chill. And what's the key? The alien didn't answer. Then every communication channel went dead. Mira looked down at her scanner. Commander! What? We have movement. A massive crack appeared across the ground. It stretched from the forest to the mountains. The planet itself was breaking. The humans watched as black mist poured from the fissure. Then something climbed out. It wasn't a creature. It wasn't a machine. It looked like both. A towering skeletal structure covered in dark armor emerged from beneath the planet. Its body seemed incomplete, as if it were still forming. Energy moved through its chest like blood. Two enormous eyes opened. Every human weapon automatically locked onto it. Mira whispered. That's what the aliens were afraid of. Elias raised his rifle. How do we kill it? Mira stared at the readings. We don't. Elias looked at her. What? We can't even measure its energy. The entity suddenly looked toward the human base. Then it spoke. Not through the communication system. Inside their minds. Who are you? Every soldier froze. Elias felt the voice inside his skull. He forced himself to stand. We're human. The entity stared at him. Human. The word echoed across the battlefield. Then something strange happened. The entity stepped backward. For the first time, it looked uncertain. You should not exist. Elias frowned. What does that mean? The entity raised one hand. Suddenly, the entire planet shook. Mountains collapsed. Oceans rose. The alien fleet above Karen began retreating. Elias looked upward. Why are they leaving? Myra's eyes widened. They're abandoning us. Elias grabbed the communication console. This is Commander Vance. You said we had 30 days. The alien voice returned. We were wrong. Elias stared at the sky. How wrong? The response came quietly. 3 days. The transmission ended. Marcus looked at Elias. 3 days until what? The entity answered for them. Freedom. The word echoed through the planet. Then the creature disappeared beneath the ground. The cracks began closing. The sky returned to normal. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Elias looked at his crew. We have 3 days. Marcus shook his head. To do what? Elias looked at the broken Odyssey. To repair the ship. Mira stepped forward. Commander, even if we repair it, the alien fleet has left. We don't need them. She stared at him. Where are we going? Elias pointed toward the mountains. The source. Marcus frowned. You want to go underground? Yes. That's insane. Elias nodded. Probably. He looked toward the distant mountains. But the aliens built this planet for a reason. Mira understood. You think there's a control system? I think there's a way to stop that thing. They began preparing immediately. The surviving crew divided into teams. One team repaired the ship. Another gathered weapons. Mira assembled a portable scanner capable of detecting the entity's energy. Elias selected 12 soldiers for the expedition. Before leaving, he looked at the remaining crew. If we're not back in 18 hours, launch the ship without us. Marcus stared at him. You're serious? Completely. Elias turned toward the mountains. The expedition moved into the forest. But they weren't alone. Something followed them. Mira detected it first. Movement behind us. Everyone turned. A group of the black creatures emerged from the trees. Weapons came up. Elias raised his hand. Don't fire. The largest creature stepped forward. It looked at Elias. Then it pointed toward the mountains. Mira slowly lowered her weapon. They're following us. Elias stared at the creatures. Why? The creature produced a strange sound. Mira translated it. They want the thing beneath the planet dead. Elias looked at the enormous alien. Then we have the same mission. The creature nodded. For the first time in human history, humans and Karen's monsters stood on the same side. And together, they walked toward the prison beneath the world. But deep underground, something was waiting for them. And it already knew their names. The humans had spent their entire lives being warned about monsters. On Karen, they had finally met them. And now they were walking beside them. Commander Elias Vance kept his rifle lowered as the creatures moved through the forest. There were 12 of them. Each stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in black armor-like skin. They made almost no sound. No communication devices. No visible weapons. Yet every few minutes, one would stop and look toward the ground, as if listening to something beneath their feet. Mirachin noticed. They can sense it. Elias nodded. How? I don't know. She glanced at the nearest creature. Maybe they're connected to the planet. The creature suddenly stopped. It turned toward Mira, then pointed at her scanner. Mira hesitated. You want to see it? The creature nodded. She held the device toward it. The creature placed one clawed hand against the scanner. The screen immediately changed. Millions of energy patterns appeared. Mira's eyes widened. What did you do? The creature removed its hand. A map appeared. A massive underground structure was visible beneath the mountains. Elias stepped closer. What is that? Mira zoomed in. It looks like a facility. Human. No. She studied the symbols. Older. How old? Mira swallowed. Older than every civilization in the Galactic Union. Elias looked at the creature. Who built it? The creature pointed toward the sky. Then toward the ground. Mira translated. They did. The aliens? The creature shook its head. It pointed toward the stars again. Then made a motion that looked like something falling. Mira understood. They didn't build it. They found it. The creature nodded. Elias looked toward the mountain. So the Galactic Union discovered the prison. Mira nodded. And instead of destroying the thing inside, they built a planet around it. Elias's expression hardened. That explains why nobody wants us here. They continued through the forest. 3 hours later, they reached the mountain. The entrance was hidden beneath thousands of tons of rock. But the creatures knew exactly where to go. One of them pressed its hand against the stone. The mountain opened. A massive tunnel appeared. Human soldiers raised their weapons. Elias looked into the darkness. Everyone stay together. They entered. The temperature dropped immediately. Their breath became visible. Ancient symbols covered the walls. Mira's scanner began recording automatically. Commander. What? These markings are telling a story. Elias looked at the wall. What story? Mira translated the first section. The Star Eater arrived. She continued. Worlds died. Another section. Armies failed. Reality failed. Elias stared at the words. What stopped it? Mira moved her light farther along the wall. The final inscription was different. It showed hundreds of civilizations standing together. Then one symbol. A human-like figure. Mira froze. Elias. Turned. She pointed. The figure looked almost human. 2 arms. 2 legs. A head. But around it were symbols representing planets. Elias stepped closer. That's impossible. Mira shook her head. Maybe not. The creature beside them made a strange clicking sound. Mira looked at it. What? It pointed toward the symbol. Then toward Elias. Elias frowned. You think that's us? The creature nodded. Before anyone could respond, the tunnel shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A deep sound echoed through the passage. Something had detected them. Mira's scanner screamed. It's awake. The lights along the walls suddenly activated. One by one. Stretching deeper into the mountain. A voice filled the tunnel. The human has returned. Elias froze. Mira looked at him. You've heard that before? No. The voice continued. The last human failed. Elias stepped forward. There were humans here before us? No answer. Then images appeared across the walls. A battlefield. Stars burning. Alien fleets collapsing. And humans fighting beside them. Mira stared in disbelief. Commander! The images changed. A human soldier stood before the same entity. Then the soldier placed something inside a machine. A massive explosion followed. The image ended. Elias whispered, They didn't kill it. Mira shook her head. No. They imprisoned it. Another tremor shook the mountain. The creatures became restless. Elias looked at the tunnel ahead. How far? Mira checked the map. About 2 kilometers. To what? She looked at the symbol. The control chamber. Elias smiled slightly. Then that's where we're going. They advanced. But halfway through the tunnel, the creatures suddenly stopped. One raised its head. Another began growling. Mira looked at her scanner. What is it? Then she saw the readings. Thousands of new energy signatures were appearing behind them. Elias turned. The tunnel was empty. Then the walls began moving. Not shaking. Moving. Something was crawling through them. Marcus raised his weapon. Commander! Elias stared into the darkness. Back up. A crack opened across the wall. A long black limb emerged. Then another. Then dozens. The creatures beside the humans roared. The tunnel erupted into chaos. Elias shouted, Fire! Plasma bolts filled the passage. The black creatures charged beside the humans. For the first time, their alliance became a battlefield reality. Human weapons. Alien claws. One army. One enemy. But while they fought, something else entered the tunnel. Something invisible. Mira suddenly dropped to her knees. Elias rushed toward her. Mira! She looked up. Tears streamed down her face. I can hear it. Hear what? She whispered. It's talking to me. Elias froze. What is it saying? Mira stared directly into his eyes. Then she repeated the voice. You were never sent here to survive. She looked toward the darkness. You were sent here. Her voice trembled. To wake me. And somewhere beneath Karen, the prison door began to open. The prison door opened by 1 meter. That was all. But the entire mountain reacted. The walls groaned. Ancient machinery awakened. Blue symbols appeared across the tunnel. Then every creature on Karen stopped fighting. The black monsters stood perfectly still. Mirachin remained on her knees, staring into nothing. Commander Elias Vance grabbed her shoulders. Mira! She blinked. Her eyes slowly focused. What happened? You said it was talking to you. Mira looked terrified. It showed me something. What? She pointed toward the opening door. Humanity. Elias froze. What about humanity? It showed me Earth. The tunnel fell silent. Mira continued. But not our Earth. She activated her scanner. A holographic image appeared. A blue planet. But the continents were different. The oceans were larger. The atmosphere was filled with strange energy. And surrounding the planet were thousands of enormous human warships. Marcus stared. That's impossible. Mira shook her head. This Earth existed millions of years ago. Elias looked at her. How do you know? The geological signature. She zoomed in. The planet was younger. Elias stepped closer. Who were those humans? Mira didn't answer. Because the hologram changed. A single soldier appeared. He wore armor unlike anything humanity possessed. Silver-black plating. A glowing symbol on his chest. And behind him stood a massive machine. The same machine depicted on the ancient wall. The soldier spoke. The recording translated itself. If anyone finds this message, understand one thing. The hologram flickered. We did not lose. Elias stared. The soldier continued. We became the lock. Mira whispered. What does that mean? The ancient soldier turned toward the camera. The entity cannot be destroyed. It cannot be controlled. It can only be contained. The hologram showed the massive creature beneath Karen. Then the image changed. The soldier entered the control chamber. He placed his hand against a device. Thousands of energy lines connected to his body. The machine activated. The entity screamed. And the planet formed around it. Mira finally understood. The planet itself, Elias nodded, is part of the prison. The ancient soldier continued. We built Karen around it. We sacrificed our civilization to keep it asleep. The hologram began breaking apart. Then came the final message. But one day it will wake. The soldier looked directly at the camera. When it does, our descendants will return. The image disappeared. Nobody spoke. Then Elias asked the question everyone was thinking. How did the Galactic Union know? Mira looked at the ancient machinery. They didn't. They discovered the prison thousands of years later. And they kept it secret. Elias's expression darkened. They knew humans were connected to this. Mira nodded. That was the real test. Suddenly, a transmission broke through. The alien fleet had returned. Hundreds of ships appeared above Karen. This time, they were not leaving. They were preparing weapons. Elias looked toward the ceiling. They came back. Mira shook her head. No. They're afraid. The alien commander transmitted. Human commander. Elias answered. Why are you here? We detected the awakening. You knew about the prison. Yes. You knew humanity was connected to it. Silence. Elias's voice became colder. You used us. The alien commander didn't deny it. We needed a human. Why? Because only human genetic architecture can access the control chamber. Elias looked at Mira. Then toward the ancient door. You could have asked. The alien commander responded. Would humanity have volunteered? Elias smiled bitterly. Probably. That answer seemed to surprise the alien. Elias continued. You made one mistake. What mistake? You assumed we'd only try to survive. The transmission ended. Mira looked at him. What are you planning? Elias looked at the ancient machine. We're going to finish what our ancestors started. They entered the control chamber. It was enormous. At the center stood a circular platform. Above it floated a sphere of pure energy. Mira approached. The sphere reacted immediately. It began glowing. Then the voice returned. Descendant. Elias stepped forward. I am here. Why? To stop you. The energy sphere pulsed. You cannot. Elias smiled. Maybe. He looked at the ancient machine. But my ancestors thought the same thing. The entity laughed. The sound shook the chamber. Your ancestors were weak. Elias stepped onto the platform. Then let's see what humanity has learned. The machine activated. Energy surged through his armor. His vision filled with memories that weren't his. Ancient human cities. Human fleets. Alien worlds burning. And finally, an enormous fleet surrounded the planet. At its center was a ship unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Its hull carried one word. Terran. Then the voice whispered. That ship still exists. Elias's eyes widened. Where? The entity answered. Beyond the edge of your galaxy. Suddenly, the control chamber shook violently. The entity was breaking free. Mira screamed. Elias! He looked toward the ceiling. A crack appeared across the planet's surface. Then another. Karen was beginning to collapse. And above them, the alien fleet opened fire. The prison had failed. But humanity's oldest weapon had just been revealed. And it was coming home. Karen was dying. The planet shook beneath Commander Elias Vance as enormous cracks spread across the surface. Mountains collapsed. Black oceans rose into the sky. The ancient prison was failing. Above the planet, the alien fleet fired continuously. Thousands of weapons struck Karen's atmosphere, but the energy barriers absorbed most of the damage. They weren't trying to destroy humanity. They were trying to destroy the prison. Mira-chan watched the readings in disbelief. They're going to kill the entire planet. Elias looked at the ancient control platform. Then we don't let them. Marcus stepped forward. How? Elias remembered the message. That ship still exists. Beyond the edge of the galaxy. A fleet humanity had forgotten. Or perhaps, a fleet humanity had never known existed. Elias turned to Mira. Can you access the ancient navigation system? Maybe. Do it. She connected her scanner to the control platform. Nothing happened. Then the entire chamber lit up. A massive star map appeared above them. Thousands of galaxies. Millions of stars. And one tiny point began glowing. Mira zoomed in. Her expression changed. That can't be right. What? She pointed at the coordinates. There's a human signal. Elias stared. Where? Outside the Milky Way. Marcus stepped closer. How far? Mira swallowed. About 80,000 light years. Elias frowned. That's impossible. Not with our current technology. But with theirs. She looked toward the ancient machinery. Yes. A communication channel suddenly opened. Not alien. Human. The voice was distorted. Ancient. But unmistakably human. Terran command, identify yourself. Elias stepped toward the transmitter. This is Commander Elias Vance of the United Human Defense Fleet. Silence. Then the voice answered. Defense Fleet. Elias frowned. Yes. Another pause. How many ships? Elias looked at Marcus. 300 operational vessels. The voice went silent. Then it laughed. Not mockingly. Almost sadly. Only 300? Elias clenched his jaw. Who are you? The answer came. We are the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. Mira stared at the transmitter. That name hasn't existed for thousands of years. The voice replied. It never stopped existing. Elias's heart began pounding. Why didn't you return? The answer was simple. We were ordered not to. By whom? A long silence followed. Humanity. The room became silent. Mira whispered. Our ancestors knew. Yes, the voice replied. They knew the prison would eventually fail. Elias looked toward the ancient entity. Then why didn't they tell us? Because if humanity knew the fleet existed, the galaxy would eventually discover it. Elias understood. They hid the fleet. Correct. For thousands of years? Correct. And you stayed out there? Waiting. For what? The answer came slowly. For humanity to become worthy of command. Elias stared at the transmitter. What does that mean? The voice answered. We watched your wars. Your mistakes. Your discoveries. Your attempts at peace. We watched the galaxy insult you. We watched you survive. Elias looked down. And now? The voice became colder. Now we have received your signal. The star map changed. Hundreds of points appeared. Then thousands. Then tens of thousands. Mira stepped backward. No. Elias stared. The entire galaxy seemed to fill with human ships. Massive carriers. Dreadnoughts. Battlecruisers. Ships larger than cities. At the center of the formation was the vessel Elias had seen in the ancient memory. A gigantic black and silver warship. Its hull carried a single symbol. Terran Legacy. Elias whispered. How many? The voice answered. 28,612. Marcus nearly dropped his weapon. 28,000? The voice continued. And Commander? Yes. Those are only the ships we can move. Elias stared at the fleet. Then Karen shook violently. The entity was breaking free. Mira screamed. Elias, we have minutes. He turned toward the ancient control platform. Can the fleet reach us? The voice answered immediately. We already have. Elias looked upward. The alien fleet suddenly stopped firing. Every ship turned toward the stars. Mira checked the sensors. Her eyes widened. Commander! What? Hyperspace signatures. How many? She stared at the numbers. Too many to count. Then the sky above Karen opened. One portal. Then 10. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Human warships emerged from hyperspace. The alien fleet froze. For the first time, the galaxy saw what humanity had been hiding. The Terran fleet formed a massive wall around Karen. At its center was the ancient flagship. The alien commander transmitted. Humanity! Elias looked at the screen. The alien's voice trembled. You were never supposed to possess this. Elias smiled. We didn't. He looked toward the fleet. We inherited it. The flagship opened its weapons bays. Thousands of weapons activated. But Elias raised his hand. Hold fire. Everyone looked at him. He opened a channel to the alien fleet. This planet is a prison. No one fires. The alien commander hesitated. What do you intend to do? Elias looked down at the ancient control platform. Then at the entity beneath the planet. We're going to put it back to sleep. Suddenly, the entity's voice echoed across every ship. You cannot control me. Elias looked toward the ancient machine. No. He smiled. But maybe we don't have to. The control platform began changing. The ancient system had recognized something. Not Elias. Not the fleet. Humanity itself. And deep inside Karen, a second chamber opened. One that the aliens had never discovered. Inside was a device waiting for thousands of years. A device built by humanity's ancestors. Its name appeared across Elias's screen. Project Legacy. And beneath it were 3 words. Wake the Guardians. The words remained on the screen. Wake the Guardians. Commander Elias Vance stared at them. For thousands of years, humanity's ancestors had prepared for this moment. And now he had no idea what the Guardians were. Mira stepped beside him. Commander. I know. No. You don't. She pointed toward the chamber. The ancient machine was changing. Panels opened in the walls. Energy began flowing through channels beneath the floor. Then a countdown appeared. 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Marcus looked at Elias. 10 minutes until what? Elias shook his head. We're about to find out. Outside, the Terran fleet surrounded Karen. 28,000 warships held position around the dying planet. The alien fleet had stopped attacking. For the first time, the galaxy's most powerful military force was afraid to fire. A transmission appeared. The alien commander spoke. Human commander, shut down Project Legacy. Elias looked at the screen. Why? You do not understand what you are activating. Then explain it. Silence. Elias waited. Finally, the alien commander said, the Guardians were created to fight the Star Eater. Mira looked at Elias. That sounds useful. The alien continued. They succeeded. Elias frowned. Then what's the problem? The Guardians did not stop. Myra's expression changed. They kept fighting. The alien commander continued. They destroyed everything they believed could become a threat. Elias looked toward the ancient symbols. Even civilizations? Yes. Even humans? Another silence. Yes. Elias stared at the screen. Then why did our ancestors create them? Because they believed survival was more important than freedom. The transmission ended. Elias looked at the countdown. 7:21. Mira spoke quietly. We should shut it down. Marcus nodded. We don't know what we're waking. Elias didn't answer. He looked at the entity beneath the planet. The Star Eater. Then he looked at the human fleet outside. 28,000 ships. Humanity had spent thousands of years believing it was alone. But its ancestors had been preparing for a war nobody remembered. Elias stepped onto the control platform. No. Mira looked at him. No. We activate it. Marcus stared. Commander, that thing could destroy us. Elias nodded. So could the Star Eater. He looked at the ancient machine. But one of them was built by humans. The countdown continued. 5:42. Elias placed his hand against the control interface. The system scanned him. A voice spoke. Genetic lineage confirmed. Command authority accepted. Myra's eyes widened. It recognizes you. Elias looked at her. Apparently my ancestors left me a very complicated inheritance. The system activated. Across Karen, enormous structures began rising from beneath the surface. The mountains split apart. The oceans moved. Ancient towers emerged from the ground. The Terran fleet watched in silence. Then the first Guardian appeared. It was not a ship. It was a machine. A colossal humanoid construct nearly 2 kilometers tall. Its body was made from black metal. Blue energy flowed through its armor. Its eyes opened. Then another emerged. And another. Hundreds. Thousands. Soon the planet was surrounded by massive Guardian constructs. Mira whispered, How many are there? The ancient system answered. 400 million. Nobody spoke. Even the alien fleet began retreating. Elias stared at the impossible army. 400 million. Mira looked horrified. Commander, that's not an army. What is it? A civilization. The Guardians turned toward the Star Eater. The entity emerged from beneath Karen. Its body stretched across continents. Black energy covered the planet. It opened its enormous mouth. You return. The Guardians answered together. We remember. Then the battle began. The Star Eater released a wave of energy. Millions of Guardian units vanished instantly. The Terran fleet opened fire. Thousands of human warships launched missiles, plasma weapons, and kinetic projectiles. The sky became a storm of fire. The Star Eater absorbed everything. Then it struck back. A wave of dark energy hit the fleet. Hundreds of human ships disappeared. Elias watched the tactical display. Pull the second fleet back. Marcus stared. Second fleet. Elias pointed toward the star map. Another formation appeared. Hidden behind Karen's moon. Thousands of ships. The alien commander transmitted again. You have a second fleet? Elias smiled. No. The alien looked confused. Then what is that? Elias answered. That's the third. The galaxy went silent. More Terran ships emerged from hyperspace. Then more. And more. The human fleet wasn't 28,000 anymore. It was growing every second. The alien commander finally understood. The ancient fleet had not been the secret. It was only the beginning. Elias looked at the tactical display. Open every channel. Mira connected the fleet. Elias spoke to every human ship. This is Commander Vance. His voice echoed across thousands of bridges. We were told humanity was too primitive. We were told we were too dangerous. We were told we didn't belong among the stars. He looked at Karen. But our ancestors didn't survive by being stronger. They survived by refusing to die. The Guardians charged. The Terran fleet followed. Elias raised his hand. Today, we remind the galaxy what that means. The human fleet accelerated. The Star Eater roared. And the Guardians attacked. But then, the ancient system issued a warning. Project Legacy failure imminent. Myra's face went pale. What does that mean? Elias looked at the screen. A second countdown appeared. 3 o'clock. Myra whispered. The Guardians aren't designed to win. Elias turned. Then what are they designed to do? The answer appeared. Transfer. Elias frowned. Transfer what? The system responded. The Star Eater. Myra's eyes widened. They're going to move it. Where? The system highlighted a location. Elias froze. The Guardians weren't destroying the monster. They were preparing to move it. Straight to humanity's homeworld. And someone had designed the entire plan thousands of years ago. The word appeared on every screen. Earth. For several seconds, Commander Elias Vance couldn't breathe. Mira Chin stared at the same coordinates. No. Elias turned toward her. Tell me that's wrong. Mira ran the calculation again. Her face became pale. It isn't. Marcus stepped closer. The Guardians are moving the Star Eater to Earth? Mira nodded. Elias looked through the observation window. Outside, millions of Guardian constructs surrounded the enormous entity. They weren't destroying it. They were pushing it. For the first time, Elias understood the ancient strategy. Karen had never been the final prison. It had been a containment chamber. A temporary one. The real plan had always been something else. Elias activated the ancient control system. Cancel the transfer. The machine refused. Command denied. Elias tried again. Override. Command denied. Mira rushed toward the console. It's following an older command. Elias looked at her. Whose? She scanned the system. Then froze. Humanity. Elias stared. The command was created before the Galactic Union existed. Mira nodded. Our ancestors ordered the Guardians to move the Star Eater to Earth if Karen failed. Marcus looked horrified. Why would they do that? Elias stared at the ancient records. Then he saw it. A map. Earth wasn't marked as a homeworld. It was marked as a weapon. Mira whispered. Commander. I see it. The ancient Earth had been modified. Deep beneath the planet's crust was a network of enormous structures. The same technology used on Charon. Earth wasn't defenseless. Earth was another prison. But this one was designed differently. Elias finally understood. Our ancestors didn't build Earth to protect humanity. Mira looked at him. They built humanity to protect Earth. Suddenly, the Star Eater screamed. The sound traveled through space. Every ship shook. The entity broke through the Guardian formation. Thousands of Guardians were destroyed. The Terran fleet opened fire. But the Star Eater continued moving toward the transfer point. A massive portal appeared. Earth's coordinates locked into the system. Mira shouted, "Commander! We have less than 2 minutes." Elias looked at the Terran fleet. "Can we destroy the transfer portal?" "No." "Can we stop the Guardians?" "No." "Can we kill the Star Eater?" Mira hesitated. "No." Elias smiled. "Good." Marcus looked at him. "Good." Elias turned toward the command platform. "Then we stop playing by their rules." He opened a channel to the entire Terran fleet. "All ships cease fire." The fleet commanders reacted immediately. "Commander!" "Do it." The weapons stopped. The Star Eater continued toward the portal. Mira stared. "What are you doing?" Elias looked at the ancient machine. "Our ancestors built this system." "Yes." "They expected the enemy to behave predictably." "And?" "We're human." Mira understood. "You want to change the plan." "Exactly." Elias accessed the command architecture. The system warned him. Alteration will result in total system failure. Elias smiled. "That's the idea." He began rewriting the ancient command. The Guardians stopped. The Star Eater stopped. The portal flickered. The entire system began collapsing. The ancient voice returned. "Warning! Warning! Human commander, you will destroy the legacy." Elias answered, "No." He looked at the holographic image of Earth. "We're changing it." The command system resisted. Energy surged through the chamber. Elias's armor began cracking. Mira shouted, "Elias! Keep the connection open. You'll die. Then make sure I don't die for nothing." He continued. One line. Then another. The ancient command began disappearing. Transfer to Earth. Elias deleted it. The Guardians turned toward the Star Eater. Then toward the nearest star. A new command appeared. Transfer to empty space. Mira stared. "There's nothing there." Elias nodded. "Exactly." The Guardians opened a massive spatial corridor. The Star Eater struggled. Its energy exploded outward. Thousands of Guardians were destroyed. But millions remained. They surrounded the entity. And slowly, they pushed it away from Earth. Toward the empty region beyond the galaxy. The portal began collapsing. The Star Eater screamed, "You cannot contain me forever." Elias looked directly at it. Maybe not. He activated the final command. Project Legacy, Human Override. The ancient Guardians stopped. Then they turned toward Earth. Not as weapons. Not as prison guards. As protectors. The Star Eater was dragged into the darkness. The portal closed. Silence. Charon remained. Broken. But alive. The Terran fleet held position. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy had witnessed humanity take control of its own legacy. But Elias wasn't celebrating. Mira walked toward him. "It's over." Elias shook his head. "No." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He pointed toward the navigation screen. A new signal had appeared. Not from Charon. Not from Earth. Not from the Terran fleet. From deep beyond the galaxy. Mira decoded it. Her expression changed. "What does it say?" She slowly read the message. "The first Star Eater has been detected." Elias stared. "First." Mira nodded. Another message appeared. "There are 7. The bridge went silent. Then the final line appeared. "And they know humanity has awakened." Elias looked at the stars. The war they thought they had survived had never been the war. It had only been the beginning. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy was afraid of humanity. Not because humans had conquered a world. Not because they possessed the largest fleet. But because the galaxy had finally discovered what humanity's ancestors had been preparing for. 7 Star Eaters existed. 7 ancient entities capable of consuming civilizations, destroying worlds, and bending the laws of space itself. And now, they knew humanity had awakened. Commander Elias Vance stood aboard the Terran Legacy, watching the final transmission from Karen disappear. Mirachin remained beside him. 7, she whispered. Elias nodded. Where are they? The tactical display expanded. 7 red symbols appeared beyond the edge of known space. The first was already moving. The second had begun changing course. Then the third. One after another, the ancient entities were responding to humanity's signal. Marcus entered the command deck. Commander, the Galactic Union is requesting an emergency conference. Elias looked at him. Tell them we're busy. Marcus almost smiled. With what? Elias pointed toward the stars. Saving them. The Galactic Union fleet appeared moments later. Thousands of alien ships emerged from hyperspace. This time, they didn't come to threaten humanity. They came to ask for help. The alien commander who had abandoned Karen appeared on the main screen. His expression was different now. There was no arrogance. Only fear. Commander Vance. Elias looked at him. You knew. The alien lowered his head. We knew legends. You knew about the 7. We knew there were threats beyond our understanding. And you sent humanity to Karen. The alien paused. We believed humans were connected to the ancient defense system. Elias nodded. You were right. We didn't expect you to survive. Elias smiled faintly. That was your second mistake. The alien looked behind Elias. The Terran fleet filled the screen. Thousands of enormous warships. Guardian constructs. Ancient human technology. And behind them, millions of human ships arriving from deep space. The alien stared. How many? Elias didn't answer. Mira did. 212,000 confirmed. The alien commander went silent. Marcus looked at Elias. Commander, we're receiving more signals. Elias turned. From where? Everywhere. The tactical display began filling with blue points. Human ships. Hidden colonies. Ancient defense stations. Forgotten fleets. Ships that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Humanity wasn't rebuilding its military. It was discovering it. Elias looked at the enormous map. How many worlds? Marcus checked. 387. Mira stared. Those aren't colonies. What are they? Fortresses. Elias finally understood. The ancient humans hadn't disappeared. They had scattered, hidden themselves, built defenses, waited, and watched. For the moment the galaxy needed them. A new transmission arrived. The entire command deck became silent. The first Star Eater had entered known space. Its silhouette appeared on the tactical display. It was enormous. Larger than a planet. Its surface looked like living darkness. The alien fleet immediately began retreating. Elias opened every communication channel. This is Commander Elias Vance. His voice traveled across the galaxy. We were given one impossible mission. The alien worlds listened. Survive Karen. He paused. We did. The image of Karen appeared behind him. But we learned something there. The Star Eater approached. You don't survive impossible things by running from them. The Terran fleet began forming. Thousands of ships moved into position. Guardian constructs followed. And you don't defeat fear by pretending it doesn't exist. The Star Eater released a wave of energy. The Terran fleet raised its shields. The wave struck. Millions of kilometers of space turned white. But the fleet remained. Elias looked at the tactical display. Opened the legacy network. Mira activated the system. Across the galaxy, ancient human installations awakened. One by one. Then thousands. Then millions. A gigantic energy network formed around the Star Eater. The entity attempted to escape. The network tightened. It screamed, "You cannot control me." Elias stood. We're not trying to control you. The Guardians moved forward. We're giving you somewhere to go. The network opened. Not toward Earth. Not toward another world. Toward the empty space beyond the galaxy. The same prison where the ancient humans had once sent the Star Eater. But this time, humanity had changed the system. The Guardians wouldn't remain trapped. The humans wouldn't sacrifice their civilization. And the galaxy wouldn't be forced to live in fear. The Star Eater fought. For hours. The Terran fleet held the line. Thousands of human ships were destroyed. Millions of Guardians fell. But humanity refused to retreat. Then the final Guardian reached the entity. It placed one hand against the Star Eater. A message appeared across every human display. Legacy complete. The portal opened. The Star Eater was pulled through. Then the portal closed. Silence returned. Elias lowered his weapon. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Mira smiled. Is it over? Elias looked at the remaining 6 red symbols. No. The galaxy waited. Elias continued. But now they know something. What? He looked toward Earth. Humanity is awake. The Galactic Union commander appeared again. What will you do now? Elias looked at the Terran fleet. Then at the stars. We're going hunting. The alien commander stared. For the remaining Star Eaters? Elias nodded. And anyone else who thinks humanity should stay afraid. Across the galaxy, human fleets began moving. Not as conquerors. Not as invaders. As guardians. The mission had started with 7 words. Humans. Survive Karen for 30 days. Humanity had survived. But it had discovered something far more important. The impossible world hadn't been designed to destroy humans. It had been designed to reveal them. And somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, 6 ancient monsters felt the same thing for the first time in their existence. Because humanity was no longer waiting for the galaxy to save them. Humanity had become the thing the galaxy called when there was nothing left to save. And this time, the humans were coming for the monsters.